Three mere mortals discover their ability to create entire universes with their minds alone. Upon discovering their abilities, these three, gods if you will, join forces to create the Dark and Stormy Nights, a supercharged team of creatives with the aim of helping artists and writers around the world while combating the forces of boredom and mundanity. They are the Dark and Stormy Nights.
Ladies and gentlemen, lords and ladies, boys and girls, mutants and amphibians, I don't know what you are, but welcome back to the Dark and Stormy Nights. This week, we're going to start plotting a little bit for you. So, we're going to plot what, we're going to give like an overall outline of what we're going to do, right? We're going to kind of debate that. We're going to debate
I think to define our heroes a little bit better, since last week we focused on villains.
Yeah.
And then get some more in-depth plotting. I know we went over the story circle already and the tale of three genres, but maybe go more in-depth.
I really don't want to bore the audience with it. However, Loki did dig up the more arcane, much more drawn out, much more detailed version. And
Bruce Campbell's...
Oh, no, it's classic.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell's story circle.
It might be worth revisiting, at least for the kickoff of what we're doing, and maybe go as we go along, but we don't have to read the whole circle right off the get.
It's so seamless. I can just keep saying the wrong name, and nobody even fucking notices.
You said Campbell, right?
Bruce Campbell's story circle.
And then an actor.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell's epic.
Oh, God. Yes, we were speaking of Joseph Campbell, for those who don't know.
But it would be so much cooler if it was Bruce Campbell's.
It would be.
I mean, I don't know. Joseph Campbell, I'm sure, is a cool guy, but he's no Bruce Campbell.
The comedy would have carried the book a little further. It's a bit of a dry work.
You talking about Hero with 1,000 Faces?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could use a little Bruce Campbell in there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, though. I really did. It's just the fourth book was a slog.
I gotta say that I think all of my college courses would have been better with a little humor in them.
Well, I mean, a good teacher isn't just regurgitating, a list of facts as history. He's making it alive, whatever he or she's teaching,
The only thing that was humorous was skeletal science.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Wow, somebody caught that.
Yeah.
Humorous. It's one of your bones.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm usually the one who's asleep when he's doing his dad puns.
Somebody's got to do them, damn it.
All
right, so I came to the table this week with a little idea of what I thought was going to start like, and turns out I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
No,
we
we're
just have
three authors, so
differing
we have three
opinions.
ideas.
All right, well,
at least three.
Let's first get this out of the way. I had one idea, and I might be wrong, of who the main character is. But I might be wrong. So I was thinking it's Elliot.
Oh, yeah.
Not Lee. But you think, Tier, that it's Lee.
I feel like they're mostly equal, but yeah, I feel like it leans towards Lee a little bit more.
No,
he's in the spotlight more.
Well, yeah, that's true. But
he's
I think
not necessarily our hero.
Yes, but in the Sorcerer's Apprentice, it's the apprentice, not
right,
the sorcerer.
That's exactly what I saw him as.
Right, but they're more side by side, and you almost see the sorcerer as the main character.
But Elliot's an idiot.
He's the divine mentor, the supernatural aid.
He's a pizza delivery guy. He doesn't know anything about the supernatural
world. Which makes him perfect for the reader to identify with in a world they don't understand.
Right.
He's the fish out of water.
Yes, he's introducing it to you.
I'm not saying he's not a hero. I'm just saying the spotlight feels like it's more on Lee.
Well, yeah, but it's going to transition.
Through Elliot's eyes, I think. I think Elliot is seeing Lee be the hero.
So maybe he's not as gruff and as dirty as I imagined, but that's all Elliot looking at him.
Did you see the Sorcerer's
I feel like
Apprentice?
That's something else we're differing on, too, is how we're seeing this bounty hunter. Because I kind of saw like a Ron Perlman kind of, character, whereas Loki was seeing something a little grittier and a little...
Yeah, True Grit. Yeah.
I'm seeing
Jeff Bridges from True Grit.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing a little bit of the dude, mixed in with...
We're close. I mean, that's another. Is that Jeff again?
Yes.
Yeah, but he's like laid back, man. I mean, does this guy have time to be laid back? He's getting
I don't
shit
see
kicked out of him.
I don't see him as laid back.
In a Jack Burton sense.
Okay, he might be better as a Jack Burton. I'm not on the old Pork Chop Express. No.
Big Trouble in Little China. The greatest bad movie ever made.
If you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen it.
You better. It's amazing.
I cannot tell if they really intended to make the best B movie ever made.
9 Demon Bag.
Or they were trying for an A movie and just missed horribly, but it is wonderful. It's great.
It was an A movie all the way. That shit was precious. So, all right. So, yeah, I think it's... look, even if the main character turns out to be Lee in the end, I think Elliot's the one who sees it, you know? I think it's Elliot painting the picture for the audience.
Well, here's what... I'll define it for you. Why I honestly think that it is Elliot who's the main character. Because Elliot will have growth.
And in case we didn't make it clear, Elliot is the pizza guy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Lee will have a little bit of growth, too, because of
No,
Elliot.
definitely. Yes, definitely. Well, because I think Lee is detached from the mortal world in that he hasn't had to put up with us a lot.
Yeah, I think that Elliot's going to make him see things differently.
Okay, that's true. Elliot will ground him and make him more human and maybe give him a little more heart. I could see all that.
Right.
I'm just saying is that he's an old dog. There's not a lot of change in him.
Right. Facing this monster might have normally made Lee count his money and think about retiring with what little he has, you know?
Right, I agree with you. But being around the pizza guy kind of makes him think, okay, but I can't leave this
mess
behind.
Yeah, maybe the people need a hero right now. Right. So...
yeah, but he's not the first and he's not the last.
Certainly, but he's the one right now, right here, when they need it.
I know. I'm just saying is like, he dies, he moves away, he knows somebody else will take this job.
Yes, but finish this job, you know.
Sure.
At least he's not there when hell breaks loose next time.
Right.
Or something.
I left it clean. Whatever you guys did
yes,
with it, that's on you.
Exactly. Right. So, yeah, I think that's where...
No, and I think this is cute because then maybe down the road he actually does get to retire, and then Elliot comes back from, like, this, and he's like, oh, shit. I'll be right back. He flies to Hawaii. Hey, dude, you got to come back. Like, it's, you know, you thought you were retired, but not so much. Now this big thing is here, and, you know, nobody else wants to handle it.
Right.
I think that would be queued up by many, many cellular calls where he's just, like, irritated with them and hangs up. Like, he just keeps referencing them like he's in the middle of combat. He's in a gunfight. All these things are going on.
Are you suggesting a phone call montage?
I'm saying is like, throughout an entire book, and then you pay it off where he finally goes to Hawaii. He's like, dude, you got to help me here. I'm way over my head. I think that'd be highly entertaining. I mean, you're talking like book 4 or 5 at that point, but...
Okay, so I had one idea of where it all starts, and you guys had 2 other ideas of where it all starts.
Yes, because we're different beings.
And that's fine.
In fact, you sent this, and no sooner than you sent this, I'm like, damn it. I was literally sitting at my computer, ready to call you up. I'm like... but should I write an intro? We really didn't discuss. Are we going to do an intro? Like, who's got what this week?
So I wrote it because we often come prepared every week, but not necessarily super prepared, because riffing turns out a lot of good content. We come with a lot of great ideas when we riff between us. But I wanted to have a little something to contribute this week. I wanted to know where I was kind of headed. And so I came up with the idea that this starts just as Elliot is coming back to the pizza shop to pick up his next delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to get loaded up and leave, but instead he sees 2 bums fighting in the parking lot. So, and it disturbs him, especially as one of the bums looks at him, and those are not people eyes. It's messed up, you know, and it kind of like gets in his head. And then he gets the delivery and he leaves, but he sees more of it, you know. And I want to give away some of the details, and I wanted to kind of introduce you to the world through Elliot's eyes, you know, where he doesn't really know what's going on, but, you know, Lee needs him in that moment, you know, and that's where I was kind of going with it. But I like Tyr's idea. Tyr, you want to tell him what your idea was?
I mean, my idea was just because you did have this mentioned a little bit further into your notes here, was and we had discussed it in the story circle as well, was that you guys wanted to have our main villain bringing in a Bodak. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, now we're not necessarily using it right, but...
Isn't that just a fear demon of some kind?
Right, so the way I have the Bodak, the way I've created the Bodak for our story is that he can use any number of nightmarish things at his disposal, including raising the dead or getting inside your mind and what have you. But the whole goal for the Bodak is to swell your brain with so much fear, what do you call them, neurotransmitters and and endorphins.
So is he
and
actually
toxins and
raising the
everything.
dead, or is this all like illusion?
No, he's actually raising the
Okay.
dead. Well, I mean, I don't know that they're actually alive. He's puppeting them, I guess,
No, I
maybe.
get that.
Or what have you. But yeah, then he gets your brain so swelled, then he eats the brains full of all the fear juices.
All right.
So that's the whole idea.
So why Tira was asking about the Bodek?
Because I was just saying that we start the story a little bit further in. I'm not saying that we eliminate the scene that you had in mind. I'm saying we just make it further into the story. But maybe opening scene is this Bodek ripping changeling children from their graves. You know what I'm saying?
I feel that because this is a major plot point, I think doing that before you're almost a third in might be too early. Like I feel like there should be an intro case, to familiarize yourself with the world and the characters before we jump right into that.
I like our idea as maybe a Scooby-Doo beginning, where there's no real detail given,
right?
Other than the event that you're seeing from
you see this nightmare scene, and then you go back into.
Oh, so this is a cutaway from a different point of view of some omniscient point of view of a thing happening. Well, see, that's the thing I was wondering about, because it's being a detective, it'd be very easy to do first person, but we want to stick with third person omniscient, or?
Oh, that's something else to discuss.
What the point of view is, I don't know.
Because if you do detective, all he knows is what he knows.
Yeah, but
so that's all the reader knows, which keeps a mystery.
You're just from one guy's angle the whole time. Then it's.
And do we want to do only from Elliot or only from Lee?
Well, if you were doing it, you'd be doing it only from Elliot, I think.
Yeah, I think you'd have to if we're doing first person.
So I don't think first person.
Although his gruff voice would be fun to do too.
Well, still doing his gruff voice, just through
Elliot's ears.
It would just be exaggerated at that point, but all right. I'm just seeing what's his name? Lee's internal dialogue being a bit like Rorschach,
Rorschach's not a bad voice. Unfortunately, what Rorschach was
I agree. From what, Watchmen or whatever?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot, well, I don't know. I was going to say he's a lot angrier, but I don't know that he is.
I don't see Lee's being
Rorschach
quite that angry. Bitter. He's definitely bitter.
And tired.
He's just done with this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, after so many years of fighting the supernatural, you kind of like.
But yeah, that's my point. If we're doing first person, I think you have to do it through the kid.
But I don't think first person's the right thing, because we want to give a little bit of what's going on.
You'd have to eliminate the meetings with the pixie girlfriend and all that if you're going from Elliot's point of view. He's obviously not taking the kid to that.
He's not porking the pixie in front of Elliot.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think it serves a detective story better, but it's hard to do overall as a story, period. Because of these problems you're bringing up. Now, there are ways to do that where, he's already met everybody, he's off screen waiting, he overhears the conversation, doors open, that kind of thing. There's ways of handling that, but it might be more hurdles than we want to give ourselves.
Right. I know. I think third person's fine. We don't need to do all that.
I would not normally ask this, but a detective story kind of leans itself that way.
I mean, is it really detective, though?
No, not really.
I get that he's got to find the bad guys.
Well, he's a bounty hunter. There's a mystery.
It may have detective
by
aspects,
the same veins, our extermination team was trying to find the bad guy and solve the mystery, but,
Yeah, but they were very Scooby-Doo. They just kind of did things and hammered themselves into a wall until somebody just kind of, ripped off their mask. I mean, they weren't quite as sophisticated
as need to add a scene into that. What is wrong with you people? I'm right here!
It was me.
I'm just going to kill you now. We're done.
No one picked up on the liar when he farts in the elevator.
I do that, though.
All right. But
then you make, uncomfortably long eye contact with the person who's right behind you.
You are evil.
While eating a banana.
It's almost as bad as, I saw this... totally off topic, but a Facebook meme where someone sent a Where's Waldo photo to a bunch of people, but he photoshopped out Waldo. And it was one of those big scenes.
That's chaotic evil.
That's awful.
It's like, wow.
That's
villainy.
That's chaotic evil. Period.
Not cool.
He's
Not
just
cool
spent
at all.
45 minutes. Where is the bastard?
Best Where's Waldo yet.
All right. So at any rate,
All right.
Do we want to define our heroes a little bit more before we get into which scene goes first?
Okay. What do you need?
I don't know. Basically, all we had was he was a rough, gruff kind of guy with.
He was a waitress in a cocktail bar.
Well, how tall do you
Probably
want him to
not.
be?
Oh.
I don't care.
Kind of tall, kind of short, 6'10",
Okay,
5'10".
so we're focusing
I
on
feel like he has to be
6'2",
somewhat
5'10".
imposing.
Lee.
Lee. Let's start with Lee.
Let's call him 6'1" even,
Okay.
because 6'1's not even.
No, but it's a little bigger than average, so for most people, that's kind of...
He's got his dirty duster.
Gray hair? Graying hair?
No, it's definitely gray and white. Yeah.
Gray?
I see him as having the
Before
body weight.
his
Like
time.
prematurely gray because of a stressful job.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with the kind of long curly hair.
Yeah, maybe there's some black streaks in it.
Yeah, maybe almost to his shoulders.
Yeah,
But I'm still seeing Ron Perlman.
Yeah, but with the build of a guy who took care of Eleven in later Stranger Things, was it season 2 or 3?
Hopper.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
He also plays the new Hellboy. Ironically,
Really?
both Ron
Yeah, he
Perlman
does.
and him play.
Who is it?
I don't remember his name. He's Hopper in Stranger Things.
And he's in the failed Captain America's being from Russia. And
Oh yeah, the
upcoming
new
Black Widow.
the new Black Widow movie. He plays Captain Russia or whatever it is.
Still
Really?
fits. He's putting the spandex over.
Yeah, it looks kind of funny.
Oh, why that build? Why are we going with that?
I don't think he's. I don't know. Like I'm not seeing Geralt. Okay, he's not fit.
Oh God, no.
He's not like.
Why is he not dead then?
What? No.
He's a bounty hunter.
No. I'm just saying he doesn't have six-pack abs and
I don't
pecs
give
of
a
steel.
fuck about his abs,
Okay.
but he's got to be strong, and he's got to be.
Yeah, I'm not
No,
saying
I
he's
said he's
not.
strong.
I'm just saying there's a layer of fat on top of it. You know what
I'm
saying?
saying Hopper's been hitting the donuts and probably not chasing werewolves.
Yeah, but okay. Look, this doesn't mean that the guy isn't like fit underneath the fat.
You don't chase werewolves. You shoot at them.
Yeah. What do they have to tell you, anyways? Just shoot first and ask questions later.
Whatever. I'm saying he has to be.
That's what
physically-
necromancy's
He
for.
has to be fit. I don't care if he has a layer of fat over his physically fit build or whatever, but otherwise he's not top of his game, and no one gives
Ron
a fuck if he
Perlman's
retires.
not like all fit either. So
Well, it depends on what he's in. But I'm saying a Ron Perlman build with a layer of fat over it.
Okay.
yeah,
I
that's
can
all I'm
agree to
saying.
that.
It's like built with fat. Yeah. Like Schwarzenegger after a couple months off.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been that
Well,
unfit.
like not like Terminator
Doughy.
Schwarzenegger, but like
Doughy Schwarzenegger. That's what we're talking about here. Doughy Schwarzenegger.
like a little bit more dad bod, so where you got like you're like
I
built,
literally
but
can't
you
picture it.
have the little bit of a belly.
Yeah, that'd be funny. They get done. He goes into his sad little like motel room or whatever like that. Has to unbutton his pants after he's got done.
Well,
fighting
here's a
something.
question. Because now you got me picturing him in his like a wife beater and and like some sort of stained in some
Nobody
crappy
wears
motel.
wife beaters anymore unless you're like skateboarding in them or something.
I suddenly saw like U.S. Marine Corps tat or something. Do you think he has that kind of back history or anything?
Military back history.
Maybe.
I could see that.
I'm thinking.
Maybe he
hear
ran
me out.
into his first supernatural
I'm
thing
not thinking that.
overseas.
I'm thinking roadie for the Who.
What? What? Why?
There's a lot of physical activity, lifting and stuff like that, and then the drugs. You might see something.
I feel like that's not the path that puts him here.
All right, whatever.
I'm okay for that for like another character.
How else was he going to meet the pinball wizard?
Oh my God.
Are we going ex-military or not?
I don't even understand that band.
The Who?
Yeah.
They're great.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care if he's ex-military. Maybe he was a normal bounty hunter before a paranormal bounty hunter.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, does his skill set come from somewhere, or has he just been raised by the Combine?
Pro wrestler.
No, not raised by the Combine. No.
Okay. Well, then if he's not an
I
agent,
think he has to
whatever
have
the
a
hell with the
healthy
barcode.
dose
It
of
is a
doubt.
good question. Where did he come from before this? Maybe we answer that after the break.
Okay. Dear listener, we accept that we had to sacrifice the whole Saturday for your entertainment, but we think you'd be crazy to miss an episode of The Dark and Stormy Nights. The world sees writers as they want to see them, in the simplest terms and the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each of us is a brain,
And a dreamer.
And a creator.
And a basket case.
A researcher.
And a comedian.
Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Dark and Stormy Nights.
Listen to Dark and Stormy.
Okay, that was a great poop. So here we go. Odin's going to introduce us to Lee.
Okay.
Right? So tell us.
Well, we hashed out what we felt a good backstory for him would be, because we were trying to figure out who he is.
Right, we want to know who Lee is. What is he into? What kind of porn does he like?
I don't know if we've even stated his full name is Lee Carver.
Lee Carver, correct, yes.
Okay. He's
What's his favorite TV dinner?
Before the story starts, we don't know when or how we're going to introduce this, but it'll be known to the reader that he used to be a bounty hunter, became injured, and was coerced by one of the members of the Combine to accept a role in their organization for healing.
Okay, coerced is an understatement. What happened was Lee was on death's door, and the son of a bitch said, "I can save you, but you have to work for us."
Right.
And anybody in their right mind be like, "Yeah, okay, fine."
Now he's paid back the dead, and he's just working for cash. And what else does he know at this point?
Well, how do you put Hunter of the Supernatural on your fucking resume?
True. Yeah, he's been doing it for a while. What else is he going to do? But
right. Well, can you explain this big gap in unemployment for us?
At the time, he was a bounty hunter. He was going after a particular target, and he thought a group of tweakers that were holding up in some defunct house might well be, either he's within in there or they would know where his last whereabouts. And it turned out that they were a creature known as Strigoi, which look a little like a goblin with mixed with a vampire.
Yeah, they're like a feral vampire, almost animalistic but human-like in nature. Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets jumped, and then he ends up crossing paths with that.
Now these are
Combine.
an Eastern European monster, and they may have been here for any number of reasons. I'm guessing they were brought here to be used as a weapon. So.
Who knows? I mean, they might well be summoned. I mean, because I don't feel like they're natural to this side of the veil.
I think that it was just supernatural going-ons before he was a bounty hunter and knew about it.
So, but yeah, he didn't know it was a Strigoi. They still look like tweakers to him until he, was given the Ray-Bans of true seeing.
And that's the thing, is that unless you're a very limited set of circumstances, most creatures are going to look human to you, or a dog or something else.
So, yeah, under any, street lighting, incandescent lighting, maybe. Maybe they've enchanted all those things, so anything under that type of light.
Suggested, like the city lights somehow make them look more human if they don't have the ability to hide themselves.
Right. So, okay.
But before that, before becoming a bounty hunter, he was a cop for a period of time. But,
I think a short period of time.
Problems with authority, and his boss, and who knows, maybe he turned someone in and didn't want to go IAB, so he left.
Yeah, well, and that gives us something to kick around later.
I think he was asked to leave.
I feel like he has detective friends, but those friends keep a distance because they don't want other detectives to see him being friends with them. Maybe. So he gets information from cops from time to time, but it's kind of...
Yeah, like maybe when they come across something that doesn't make sense, they're like, toss the weird shit his way,
Well, in both ways, so, like anything weird going on, that and then he can go follow up on that.
That's cool. I think that, I like the backstory. I don't necessarily think it needs to come out to the reader. Not necessarily in the first book, maybe bits and pieces.
Well, I think that we can dive in and out of it as we need to.
Right. I think it will in the first book. It's by the end of it.
I don't know that the whole thing will. His association with the cops, obviously we can, he knows them and whatnot. But I don't think we need to bring out the full backstory just yet.
I think you got two things going on here. One is if he has a near-death experience in the story, his last near-death experience may come up.
Okay.
And then...
that backlash would make sense in that scenario.
Right. And then the other thing is that if he has an interaction with a police officer...
that's what I was thinking.
That Elliot isn't going to leave it alone until he knows why he knows the police so well.
Oh, I was just thinking, overheard conversation, so it's a show don't tell scenario. So instead of expositioning, we just show that he has this relationship with the cops. They make mention of, when he was on the force or something, and then the reader is in on what's going on without just blurting it at him.
Sure. So there's that. All right. Who wants to talk about Elliot?
Oh, we were talking about that he agricultural sciences.
Agricultural science degree.
Because we did say he was a bit of a pothead, and the state hasn't yet flipped to casual use.
But when it does, he's going to be rich. At least that's what he tells everybody.
Sure.
So.
But he's a dropout.
Yeah, but he knows enough. It's okay. He's saving up money, delivering pizzas.
Well, he knows more than the teacher does.
What did I say the guy's name was?
Well, I thought we said he dropped out because he couldn't afford it.
It is. It's too expensive. College is fucking expensive.
Yeah, it is.
And carrying all that debt, man, I'm going to be carrying all the debt I built up for ages. So he is working at the pizza place for... I lost it. All I know is he's got to deliver a pizza to Mrs. Arnold, right?
I thought it was Jacobs.
Jacobs, yeah, he works for Mr. Arnold, and he's delivering a pie to Mrs. Jacobs. That's what it was. So many names to keep track of. We're not going to tell you Mr. Arnold or Mrs. Jacobs' back history. It's not important. So, all right. So you wanted to tell us about...
Yeah, I just had a slightly different direction than what you had. But you hadn't even read yours. Would you want to go over yours first?
I was just glossing over it because I think that it should start out with Elliot coming back to the pizza place.
Right.
He just got done with one delivery. He's coming back and he sees two hobos fighting at the other end of the parking lot next to the pizza place. And he stops and stares for a little bit, and the big one, who looks like he's wearing like every article of clothing he owns, looks at him a moment, and it's just unnerving. The look is like, he's got these beady eyes and everything like that. But while he catches that big guy's attention, the smaller guy he's fighting gets a cheap shot in on him and just levels it to his jaw, But the whole experience being as unnerving as it was, Elliot goes inside. He has a little conversation with Mr. Arnold. Should we call the cops? Cops are bad for business. Take the pie. Get your mind off of it. Take your time. Relax. Go get tipped. Get paid. Get back here. Everything will be fine. So he's like, yeah. He grabs the tip, rolls himself, or grabs the pizzas. Maybe he rolls himself a joint because now he's a pothead. Although, please, folks, don't do substances and drive. So we're not condoning that, but Elliot does because he's a dick. So, anyways, but here's where I think Elliot gets the pies. He gets in his car, and while he's heading out to the car, this fight has gotten closer to where he's parked. You know what I'm saying? And I think as Elliot's starting up his car or whatever, he hears the gunshot or something like that, and frickin' Lee jumps in his car.
Okay. Well, I didn't get that in your notes, so...
No, I didn't get that far.
Oh, okay. Because that's a little more action-oriented. That's not so bad then. And the rest of that sounded long because you're going into all that detail is actually very short.
Right.
So it's not far from jumping into the action. What I had in mind was just a little quicker to the action, but yours isn't bad. All I was saying was he's in traffic, stops at a red light or a stop sign. Stop sign might be good because it's a sleepy suburb kind of scenario, maybe quiet and dark. Perfect, But he stops for a moment. And then you just have this guy barreling through, points a gun at the kid, has him move over, and jacks his car while he's sitting in the passenger seat and drives off in a hurry. And he's freaking out. He's looking in the mirrors. He's waving his gun. The kid's just a little paranoid because he had smoked up about an hour and a half ago, and it's still in his system, and he's a little weirded out between that and a gun and being carjacked, and there's something behind him he can't see, but there's something there that is pushing cars parked on the side of the street out of the way.
Going the same direction, but it's at night. There's not so much traffic, and the guy with the beady eyes is chasing the car.
Right.
But to Elliot, this looks like a homeless guy wearing all of the clothes that he owns running after the car at full steam. Yes, unnaturally fast, you know.
That's not bad either.
And Leah's like, go, go, go. And he goes, what's he going to do? He's some homeless guy, you know.
Okay, what I was saying was you couldn't quite see the form, but there was something big that he can't quite see. And the fact that the cars are literally lifting up and rocking as he's busting past him, denting him, running down the street behind the car. I don't know. To me, it just sounded good, and it goes right into the action.
Right.
Don't have to do it. That was just my
Well,
thought.
I was trying to introduce Elliot first. I was trying to give a little glimpse at Elliot before we just jumped into things. You know. So even just a moment of establishing normality for Elliot before we throw him into this
Considering
world.
that, you know, we kind of decided that he's probably the main character, that's probably not a bad note.
I don't mind Tyr's idea, though, that maybe we start with this little scene where he's raising the corpses or whatever like that, and then it pans away, and then it goes into what we just talked about.
You mean start with the villain?
Well,
start with the action.
You're
start
not
with
actually seeing the big villain
You're not
either.
going to
You're just
see
seeing
what's
I don't
going
know if
on.
I've ever seen that in a story.
I'm saying all you do is start with this ominous beginning where the Bodak is there raising children from their graves.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know anything about what's going on other than that is the scene in an urban cemetery in the middle of the night. This magic is happening and children are being raised from their graves. And then you jump over to the scene where the kid sees this fight going on in a parking lot, jumps into his pizza delivery car, and then you can cut right into the scene where he's driving, and next thing you know, the bounty hunter is barreling down the street and tells him to scoot the fuck over, and he sees the homeless guy he just saw fighting, chasing the bounty hunter.
Well,
I mean, truly, it can go from one to the next to the next.
And not to mention, so where I wanted to go with it was Lee is shooting at the monster chasing them, and Elliot is driving as fast as he can make this little Corolla move, you know, and they're flying down the street.
Those four bakers got some pickup. There's
And
not a
I
lot of
feel
weight
like
in
it
there.
should be a Prius.
And I don't care what it is.
That's expensive for a stoner.
That is expensive.
And
probably used one.
my point
Hard
is
to come by, but sure.
is that they pass the monster, they pass the Bodak and
Right.
the Legion of Children without even noticing that they did so. You know what I'm saying? They just kind of fly back. You know, what the hell's...
No, that's what I'm saying is if we put that little piece in the beginning, then once you get into it, you can just have those children start to
I'm not
appear.
against it. In fact, I
There's
like it.
no, like, explaining where they came from because you already got that little glimpse of children coming from their graves. And now when evil little demonic children start to appear, there's no need to slow down the story to explain.
Right.
Oh, I like it.
No, that's good, yeah.
The only downside, and it's not a downside from my point of view, just because we've talked about it, that almost feels like Prelude. Not that there's anything wrong with the Prelude.
Do you mean
but
prologue?
or prologue, yeah.
It's not a different time. It's
No.
just a different scene.
But,
and
but starting with the villain as chapter 0.
There's no
or
exposition.
I'm saying chapter 1.
But there's
Or,
no...
I don't care, label it as a prologue.
It just feels. I mean, I don't know. Isn't it?
Well, you know what you could do is
the hero's not in
is
it. It's like,
less than a mile from the pizza shop, you know.
I don't feel the need to explain myself to that extent, but if you want it in there, we can do that.
Well, I'm just thinking that's, you know, the cemetery is pretty close
It's
to the pizza
current
shop
time.
itself.
It's within the same time frame. It's not like a huge gap in scenery. It's within the same city. It's within the same time frame.
Do you guys want to name the
There's
pizza
no
shop?
exposition. All you're doing is seeing a little piece of what's going on from a different perspective.
is he
And we're
ever
writing
coming
in
back
third
to the pizza
person.
shop?
What?
Is he ever coming back to that pizza shop?
I think he would if it didn't get destroyed.
I think he'll try to go back to work tomorrow and then end up in another mess.
Fair enough.
Maybe it's already
'Cause
smoldering when he gets there or
With
something.
the opening I had in
Maybe.
mind, there was no need for it. But you're right. At some point,
Maybe
he
he's
might
convinced that
return
it was
to
a
work.
really bad, high,
Yeah.
and like he just
I ain't
needs to go
smoking
back to
that shit
work.
again.
Just needs to go back to his routine.
I think
and
it's going to be
everything is
either
still
one of two
different.
things. It's going to be the most bland, unimaginative name, or a ridiculously cutesy, funny name that's almost on the level of like ridiculous bars.
A name
know.
of what?
So it's like either Joe's Pizza or it's some sort of like bad pun. You know,
Guys, pies.
something. Yeah, it's something ridiculous. I feel like there's no middle ground. It's one or the other.
You're literally going to have this pizza shop in one scene
A
and then
slice of
blow it up,
paradise.
right?
It's
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
fuck's
Okay. Look,
sake.
he's on the same.
a slice of paradise pizza. There you go. Boom.
It's probably
shakalaka.
taken. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Slice of Italy? Venice? I don't know.
Probably also taken. And as I said, it doesn't matter. It's in one scene. Joe's Pizza works fine.
I still want to name it.
How about Pop's Pizza? You had him calling him Pops, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it could
Pop's
be
Pies.
Pop's Pies. Come and get one of Pop's Pies.
Was that supposed to be an Italian accent?
I was going
I
to say.
don't know what it was.
We're in
I'm not
Cleveland.
Italian.
I've been to a lot of Italian pizzerias, and none of them are all that Italian.
Well, his name's Mr. Arnold. He's not Italian.
I mean, we're not like in Boston or New York or whatever. You know?
No, but he's literally
It would
not
be
Italian.
hilarious if he faked an Italian accent every time a customer came in.
Hey.
Oh my God! Like,
Hey.
like the fake Asian guy in South Park,
I don't know.
the Chinese restaurant.
Shitty Walk?
Yeah, he's actually a white guy.
Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah, they find out he's a serial killer and they let him live because there's no other Asian food in the city, so they're just like, what are you gonna do?
I stopped watching it ages ago, so.
Well, now you're caught up.
Hey, all right. Now I know everything I need to know about this show.
So what's the plan with the plotting here?
Well, okay. So I brought the Campbell method,
Oh yeah.
which is actually 17 steps, and if you scroll further down, I thought I brought definitions. There we go.
I mean, we really only need to cover
Near the
what we're
bottom.
doing.
Is the Campbell story circle with definitions. And all I thought was that maybe we go through some of them
Okay.
and we try and fill them out. We don't even have to finish the whole thing today.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We should probably only deal with what we're going to end up writing in the near future.
So, maybe we take a break in a moment, and when we come back, we can do a few of these. Okay?
Sure.
Does that sound good? You guys ready for a little early break?
I mean, if you like.
Okay. We'll come back in a minute, and then we'll knock out some of these.
You know what I'd like to do on a dark and stormy night? Yeah, that's right. But right after that, I'd like to turn to my favorite podcast. We are happy to join you in your postcoital bliss. Enjoy.
Oh my.
Okay, folks, we are back, and so now we're going to break down what we're using this season. I should lay out. Last season we used the Harmon story circle. This season we're working off of the Campbell story circle.
The originator.
So yes, as many would. I mean, I think he just observed what stories
Well, yeah, he
really
said he
worked
never
like.
invented it. He just
Right.
observed that it existed.
Sure. So there are 17 parts of the Campbell story circle. We are going to do the first 5 today in today's episode, but I'm going to tell you what all 17 parts are.
And some are optional.
And that's true. Although I think we're going to try and at least identify what these 17 parts are in our own story. So we have it's broken into 3 segments. The departure, which is the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, supernatural aid, crossing the threshold, and the belly of the whale. We'll tell you what those are in a little bit because we're going to come back and actually do them with you. The next 2 sections I'll go over with you, and we'll tell you about them in the future episodes when we do them with you. So second part is called the initiation, and it consists of the road of trials, the meeting with the goddess, woman as temptress, atonement with the Father, apotheosis, which I love that name, and the ultimate boon. And then the third section is called called the return, and it's comprised of the refusal of the return, the magic flight, the rescue from without, the crossing of the return threshold, master of 2 worlds, and freedom to live. Like I said, we'll go over all of those with you. And some of these steps are optional. You won't have them in every story.
And some are very archaically languaged in that, they're more reference to like classic literature and you may not understand the terms as they were written in this academic 50 cents. Like, the magic flight might well be just a car chase scene.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, so you're going to apply them to what your story means, and like I said, not everything's going to work. But we're going to start with the first 5 with you in the departure. In the departure, there's the call to adventure. That's the first one. It's where you start out in normality, and something happens, and
you're establishing it so the reader
yeah,
knows.
You have to. Otherwise, we don't know what's different or anything like that.
Right.
So you have to kind of set it up. And in our case, one of the things we kind of agreed on is we introduce Elliot working in the pizza shop. It doesn't necessarily have to be very long, but we introduce him outside of the supernatural world. So, and that's kind of normality. Now, realize we have the secondary character, Lee. Well, actually, I think he is a fairly primary character, and we see him through Elliot's eyes most often. And this supernatural world is normal to him. What isn't normal to Lee is having this kid along. So, that's a little out of the ordinary for him. But anyways, some information is received that acts as a call. And then you're kind of thrown in the unknown. So in our case, we have this, well, I call him the were-hobo, but the werewolf is chasing, and it forces Lee to kind of carjack Elliot. Sorry, getting used to the name still. So Lee jumps into the car. So the second one, you want to do the second one?
Okay. That's the refuse of the call. So if he recognizes it or not, if he denies that the supernatural is actually happening, maybe he's just like, no, I'm going crazy. I'm just dreaming, whatever. Or no, I'm not a hero. Find somebody else. That's the refuse of the call. Not all heroes go through this. Ours will, but this is an optional step. Which we're representing with him saying, "Get out of my car." Of course, he does have a gun, so that's probably not going to work out so well.
Right. So, yeah, but it doesn't matter, right? He refuses the call. And just the act of saying no or get out of my car or what have you like that, he's still resisting at this point. So regardless of the fact that Lee is like, yeah, fuck you, kid. Move over, bend over, I'll drive, whatever. He's still refusing the call at this moment. And so things haven't, they're changing with whether he likes it or not, but they haven't changed in his mind or in his heart yet. So.
All right, and then step 3 is supernatural aid. Once the hero is committed to the quest, consciously or unconsciously, his guide and magical helper appears or becomes known. More often than not, this supernatural mentor will present the hero with one or more talismans or artifacts that will aid them later in their quest. And then meeting this person can help them in their journey. So in this case, we kind of have two, because we have two main characters. And so for Elliot, the mentor, person who introduces him to magic here is going to be Lee. Mm-hmm. And then for Lee, as was mentioned a little bit in the backstory, his mentor and the person who kind of introduced him into the magic world was Nigel.
Also known
as Bobby Ray, was it?
Yeah, Bobby Ray.
Which is the same person who actually healed him.
Correct. And this is one of the basically it's his sorcerer contact when he works as a bounty hunter. And it's, I don't know how much we went into the hotel facade and everything.
I don't think we did a whole lot.
For the Combine, but basically that's his contact with the Combine.
So Bobby Ray, or also known as Nigel, is a source for goodies and stuff like that. So when Lee does a good job, he can go to Bobby Ray, buy some or get some weapons and goodies. Now, Lee can also go through the mystical dark web and get some things as well, but Bobby Ray is a legit source, and he knows that stuff's going to work. He's not getting ripped off or anything like that.
Right, so like Nigel / Bobby Ray is the one that he goes to, when he has issues with a job, when he expects to get paid, those kinds of things. Like that's the person he deals with at the Combine. He's the sorcerer. And I don't think that we mentioned very much about him, but basically the reason he has two names and what seems like two very different personas is because he has a glamour. And so his actual appearance is a very, sophisticated, well-dressed, well-spoken man. But what the public sees, the non-magic community sees, is Bobby Ray, the motel owner.
Essentially, he looks like Little Dicky in a bathrobe and slippers. A little dirty, carries around a coffee cup at all times. If you could see through it, that coffee cup's probably his staff or something like that.
And
or a pistol.
And he looks to humans as to be the desk clerk at the Huntsman Inn.
Right. So Lee gets his goodies from Nigel, his help, his toys, stuff like that, and Elliot will get hand-me-downs from Lee. that'll help him on his side. Or
Besides things that he accumulates from in his adventures from other people he's either arrested or murdered.
Hey, waste not, want not.
Or that he's ordered from the dark web, which may come up in story down the
line. So, next we come to crossing the threshold. This is where the hero actually crosses into the field of adventure. Whether he likes it or not, he's in it. He's stuck in the
Can't
the
deny
thick of
it
it
anymore.
Right? Yeah. This is what's happening right now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so, it's no longer normality at this point. It's unknown and dangerous. And
well, I mean, it could just. We've said this before in earlier podcasts. I don't know if everyone's been on the full ride with us, but in this one, we have a mystical adventure. So obviously, it literally applies. But it can also be just being outside of your comfort zone.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you've been stuck in your little town all this time and suddenly you go into the big city, I'm sure it feels the same way with no magic. It's like, oh, what is all this weird? I mean, when I was a little kid, going into downtown from my little suburban thing, that was magical and unknown and weird.
Or if anybody's seen the movie Stranger Than Fiction, I enjoyed it. As thinking myself as an author, but I know not everybody enjoyed it, but I thought it was highly entertaining, and that was just as simple as his watch malfunctioning.
Right.
His schedule falling off,
So, but in our case, this is where they come to find out about the changeling children, and they get introduced to the first, I guess the tip of the, that's a bad wording, huh? I was going to say tip of the enemy. But they find out that there is a big bad, some kind of enemy or what have you, and these undead kids is kind of like, this is really happening right now.
Right.
So.
Okay. So the next one, and the final one we're really going over in this gloss tonight, is the belly of the whale. Now, this is the full-on, not just acceptance that you're in the other world, but a choice to cross over, to take an active participation. So you're not refusing the call or anything else. It's like, all right, pass me a gun. Let's take care of this.
Right.
That's where you're at.
So in this case, this is the first battle with the Bodak and the dead kids. This isn't just crossing them. This isn't just meeting them.
But it's also setting up the learning process and the overcoming. Usually at this step, they usually encounter some kind of minor fight and fail.
Right.
So you can later establish growth.
That's what I'm thinking, too, is I'm thinking they run with their tail between their legs from this thing.
Yeah, but
it's good story room, but
I think that this needs to evolve into these kids are starting to wreak havoc across the city. They're starting to harm innocents, and they're starting to, and maybe Lee and Elliot are starting to figure out what's behind it.
Well, so we have, I say what, before
they're
this,
targeted, aren't they?
Before they get to this point, I think they've killed, the children have killed one sorcerer, and they're maybe trying to root out the second one or something like that, And that's the thing, I think that it's Lee is taking it on as, or it's his job or what have you.
It's his bounty, probably.
To stop it's his bounty, but I'm saying he's got to stop
them.
them.
But I think that maybe at first he took a bounty to find what killed this sorcerer. Not necessarily a bounty on changelings, but a bounty on whatever killed the sorcerer.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what it's all about, is that's one sorcerer knocked off, and now this is maybe where they learn that it's not just about one sorcerer, but it's about taking down the entire Combine.
Right.
And so we learn this. It's way too much. They're way in over their heads.
Right.
And without proper stocking, if you will, and with Elliot so green and everything to this not being a really help, he's actually probably more a hindrance than a help at this point.
Sure, but this is the point, I think, where we need to get Elliot completely on board. And is this maybe the point where we do this with the pizza shop?
I think, you mean destroy it?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I mean,
There's
maybe
no turning
that's
back.
what brings him on board is, okay, I'm in this now. This was a threat on my life, and I lost somebody I cared about, and that's it. I got to go after this thing.
Or it could just be him simply going back to the pizza shop. On the way there, he sees that there are creepy entities looking at him, and the closer he gets, the more he realizes they're lying in wait, and he just can't get back there, and he's just endangering his boss by going back.
Right.
Yeah, that's a possibility. As
No, I think they destroy the pizza shop, and it might be because at this point he's already seen the huntsman or he's seen Elliot and Lee go there, and he knows that they've got some kind of connection to the Combine, and maybe this thing is now going after him as a source, as a way to get at the other. How do I get to them? How do I, because our big bad doesn't necessarily know how to get at these people. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They got lucky enough to get one. Now they're going to try and get the others.
Now I have a question, but I didn't know where else you
Go
wanted
ahead.
to go. Well, are we at the stage, what we've just talked about, discussed on and off air, where next week one of us is going to come with a chapter? Is that what we're doing?
Do you want us to come with a chapter next week? Do we want to start writing now?
I feel like that's the next
well,
step,
because
but
we
I don't
still
remember
have
exactly how we kicked it off last time.
We still have part 2 and part 3 of the breakdown to do if we want to do that.
So you think it'd be better that we get the whole outline going?
Or at least have an idea.
All right. That's
yeah,
fair.
well, yeah,
that's fair.
no, I think we lay it all out. Maybe even, because we have a very basic idea of what's going where on this outline. Maybe we get a little more in depth with that and decide what these chapters are going to kind of look like.
Well, I think that while you can probably take care of almost all 5 of these steps in one chapter.
Maybe.
Or a couple, depending. The second part, the second act, generally is meaty as the first and third added together.
Yeah, sure, yeah, of course.
If not bigger. It could be 3 times as big. So when we go to plot that out, it may be much more complicated than you might anticipate, or not be as simple as what we just done.
I honestly think that the first 5 are probably at minimum 3 chapters.
Okay.
And then we're not factoring in seeing anything from another side. Now, I feel like
True.
the Bodak side of this is very thin. It's very slim. There's not.
You're talking the opening scene?
Well, not just the opening scene, but like I was saying, maybe the Bodak catches them going to the Huntsman Inn or something like that, and decides to hunt Elliot or something like that to get information.
I thought that was just narration. Are we doing like internal thoughts on that, or
what are we talking about?
the POV of the
Bodak? Yeah, it was just a thought. Like I said, this is why I think we have to lay this out a little more in depth. That we're going to go ahead and we're going to plot a little more of that, and maybe then, because what we did last season was we decided on, okay, this is this chapter, let's go ahead and plot it out, and then somebody writes it. So we need at least to go there with it, So we'll have to define the outline a little better before we go there.
Okay, I just want to know where we're going.
So, yeah, I just gave an idea, but like I said, I agree with Tier that maybe we go ahead and put in the introducing the
we don't have to.
children.
I just thought it was a good way to create instant interest
so
in the story, because beginning of your book is where you have to grab your reader,
right? Yeah,
especially beginning of the first book.
I jumped right into the getting the being chased by a werewolf, and that starts with a little more. Yours is more intrigue, mine's more action.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling. Because I was planning to start.
We don't have to
just
do
at
it.
the
You guys
carjack.
can do whatever you want.
No, I don't.
I was just a suggestion.
I like how yours sets up further creepy.
Yeah, it's more intrigue, and it's all we have to do is decide whether we want to go and start with the intrigue, which I think is fine. Is it its own chapter? Is it?
No, I thought it was like a quick opening scene, and then you go into.
And then just pan over.
Yeah.
So that's fine. We'll just figure out how to.
Just as long as it's worded in a way that grabs you, creates a mystery within a sense or two.
Yeah, maybe. So I dig it. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. A little bit short today, but that's fine. Okay, so don't forget to check us out at the Dark Stormy K1 on Twitter. Go to our website, thedarkstormynights.com. .vigvisirmedia.com. Missed that part. Go check out Tier at Nova Drake Writer on Twitter. She has books for sale. Go check those out. We have any other mentions?
Nope.
We will see you next week.